Let's talk about Samira. Samira is League's newest marksman and certainly one of the most unconventional of that class released in recent memory. She's mobile, aggressive, and dive-oriented with some clear assassin elements in her kit, unlike most marksmen. My community got together on the day of her PvE release to test her out, see what she can do, and optimize what we can in a single play session, though this time around I've had some extra time to think following that play session thanks to some delays on this video. Still though, I've looked at few resources outside of my own experiences and discussions, as well as the numbers on the League wiki, so consider this your Samira primer rather than a detailed guide. First, her abilities. Samira's passive is by far the most complicated element of her kit, so we'll need to spend some extra time on it. Fundamentally, this ability does three things. She builds style points to speed herself up, she does more damage in melee range, and she can follow up CC with her own. Let's elaborate a little bit. Firstly, the style points. Samira builds up her style from E to S rank by hitting enemy champions with unique sources of damage. But what does this mean exactly? Consecutive auto attacks do not stack it, even if targeting different champions. Consecutive Qs don't stack it either. You must hit someone with something different from your last hit to actually gain a style grade, and your reward for doing so is 3.5% move speed per grade. If your stacks fall off, you don't need to remember what your last hit was, since any auto or ability will start the chain again. Second, her melee range auto attacks trigger when hitting a target within 200 units and add bonus magic damage. However, the base damage on these melee attacks is pitiful, literally 1 bonus damage per level. There is a 10% AD ratio on this effect, but more importantly, the bonus damage scales 1-to-1 with the target's missing HP. 50% missing HP means 50% more bonus damage. This effect will apply to all damage dealt by Samira's sword, including all 3 of her non-ultimate abilities. Important to note, effects that proc this part of the passive are not projectiles. Third, Samira can effectively extend the duration of CC by auto-attacking, and this is by far the most important aspect of her passive. If she is outside her auto range, she can dash to immobilize targets from 800 to 1000 units away depending on her level. This dash cannot go over terrain. Following the dash, she suspends the enemy for half a second. Suspension is the strongest non-ultimate CC we've ever had on a marksman, but Samira has no way of activating it without the help of her team. The auto that knocks up the enemy strikes 6 times, but it still deals only the damage of a single auto attack. Finally, we can move on to Samira's simpler abilities. Her Q is either a linear skill shot gunshot or a conical sword slash depending on her distance from the enemy. The gunshot can only hit one target, the slash is AoE. The only thing this ability does is damage. In fact, it's just your auto damage plus 20 at rank 5. The way this ability targets is a bit odd though. There must be a melee range opponent within the skill shot indicator, not the cone, which means you can actually fire the gun right between 2 melee range opponents. Comparisons to Ezreal Q only go so far. It's shorter range and feels similar, but it doesn't proc on hits and can crit. The cooldown goes to 2 seconds at rank 5, and it's your most reliable source of style points. Max Q first. W is an AoE slash that deals damage at the beginning and end of its cast time, and more importantly, it destroys all enemy projectiles that it touches, excluding tower shots. It's a shorter duration, but portable wind wall. While it's active, Samira cannot auto-attack or cast Q, and casting ult will immediately end W. Most of this ability's damage is in its ratio, so max it last unless we really value the cooldown. E is a targeted dash through an enemy or ally that deals damage to all enemies Samira passes through and increases Samira's attack speed for a duration. Scoring a takedown immediately resets the cooldown of this ability so you can really fly around in the right circumstances. If you cast Q during the dash, it will hit everything along the dash's path. The base damage and more importantly the attack speed steroid increases with ranks, so I would max E second. Finally, the most important part of Samira's kit, the ultimate. Castable only if she has a style rank of S, Samira fires 10 shots at everything within her range. Those shots have a 60% AD ratio, can crit, and most importantly, apply lifesteal. This ability has a 3-second cooldown at all ranks, but consumes Samira's style, so she has to stack it again. You can cast E during your ult, but no other abilities. However, the reset potential while ulting is fantastic. This ability hurts a ton, and if it goes uninterrupted, it's very likely you come away with several kills. And I guess Samira has a 1 damage taunt that counts for a unique instance of damage for passive, but I seriously doubt anyone's going to find a practical use for this outside of giving the enemy's corpse 1 gold to BM. Okay, that took a while thanks to her passive. We've already been over a few interactions, but now that we know the rest of her kit, let's talk combos, though they're mostly freeform. Optimal Samira combos weave autos between every ability cast since that optimizes your style gain, unlocking your fight-winning ultimate. When it's time to go in, this is a combo that gets you max S rank from nothing. Auto attack E, auto attack Q, auto attack W, R. This is very high damage, but the downside is getting your W out later and for a very short duration, which could result in your death in certain contexts. very situational and defensive style generation combo is WE, since both instances of damage from W can stack style if and only if you get an E off between them. I don't want to tunnel vision on rigid Samira combos though, since at the end of the day, you should be using W and E as engage or defensive tools when needed, not just press your buttons because they're there. Alternating autos and Q is the safest way to get style, and pressing your buttons without auto weaving like an assassin leaves you without style. Don't forget, all style generation combos are inherently all-ins. This leads me to the core of Samira's weird playstyle. Yes, she's a marksman, but look at the 500 auto range, look at the defensive tools, look at the synergy with lifesteal and the Katarina-like ultimate. This champ is a dive champ who thrives in the middle of a fight, which is an extremely dangerous concept for a marksman. She sincerely feels like a bot lane assassin with marksman elements to help out on objectives, which is a really cool concept. The result, though, is that this champion feels extremely feast or famine, like Draven. She's either strong enough to dive with her team, or she has none of her defensive items and immediately explodes. Champions like Jax, Tryndamere, and Fiora, melee carries with no or limited reliance on projectiles, will absolutely be her downfall. Additionally, she reminds me of Sivir, and that's not just because of her auto range and design. Sivir excels when you build a comp around her. Samira is similar. She needs a CC support and a team that can dive. She has good damage even in the early game, but she has no way of exploiting that without either setup or a huge mistake from her opponents. Laning with Soraka felt abysmal, but champs like Leona, Thresh, Pyke, and Pantheon at her side enabled her to get the snowball going. On top of that, long-range, safe AD carries like Caitlyn, Ashe, and Senna can be just absolutely miserable for Samira. Unless she's seriously overtuned, she will not succeed in every lane. Picking her by design should be inherently riskier. For items, I think Essence Reaver is a trap. She has no mana issues since her spells are very cheap. Start Doran's Blade because Samira loves lifesteal. The Cull Cutdown start is less valuable because Samira has high base HP and needs the lifesteal stat more than healing effects. Her kit has synergy with crit, so we found a lot of success with Infinity Edge into Phantom Dancer with either Berserker's Greaves or defensive boots. It's pretty clear though that this is a caster AD carry, so building too much attack speed seems very suboptimal. You know those defensive AD items like Bloodthirster, Death's Dance, and Guardian Angel? Yeah, buy all of them. Stacking AD and defensive stats keeps her alive when she's diving in like a maniac, and if you dive on S rank and live, you win. I do have some untested questions though. Even with the crit synergies, is it really a good idea to rush crit, a scaling stat, every game on an AD carry with a strong early game? Since the lifesteal stat is more valuable thanks to R, I'm wondering if Bloodthirster Rush is the way to go, or if Bloodthirster in general is more valuable to purchase before Death's Dance thanks to her AoE nature. Also, I'm wondering if Manamune has any value on this champion, since it's found value on even Draven. These are all questions that we should try to answer when she comes out. And runes are tricky for me. She values the precision tree because of runes like Triumph, Bloodline, and Last Stand, or in other words, the runes that are usually good on melee carries. PTA is not practical because of her auto weaving, and Lethal Tempo gives her more attack speed than she can use. This leaves Fleet Footwork and Conqueror, but Fleet isn't often what a strong early game champion wants with 500 auto range, and Conqueror stacks slower than Style in most cases, delaying your ultimate or sacrificing healing when you do ult. Theoretically, Conqueror sounds like a good call, but at least in my own games, it didn't heal much at all. We had the most success with a Fleet Footwork sorcery page, which compensates for some of her laning flaws while maintaining her ability to fight early if properly set up. Let's entertain the notion of solo lane Samira. Yes, she has range, but she's more effective close up. Yes, she has mobility, but it's a targeted dash and is better enabled by having an ally to dash through. Yes, she's strong early, but a ton of her strength is in following up on CC. Top lane feels unlikely because she doesn't have the freedom of mobility like Vayne, Kalista, and Lucian. Mid lane could maybe happen if and only if she has the right jungler playing around her lane or has the right matchup to actually be an assassin. I do think she'll find the most success as designed, as an unorthodox bot laner. Well, that was a more extreme info dump than usual. I'm just happy to be able to analyze a champion in a role I'm more comfortable with. But, again, I'm a support main who did not have enough time to fully master this champion, so there's certainly things that I missed and questions that are left unanswered. Samira is explosive, extremely fun, unorthodox, and frankly likely overpowered on release, but when the dust settles we'll find ourselves with a unique and situationally powerful marksman. Please experiment and report back with anything else you learn about Samira. I hope I was able to help you start flexing your style on the Rift when Samira releases.